early. Yeah, here's what I do think is really important. So like obviously the underlying technology is essential for long-term enduring viability. That said, I have 25 years of being a technologist, and it's hard as shit for me to look at different chains and try to determine which technology is better. Unless I have 5 or 7 thousand hours of developing and architecting with a code base, I don't feel like I have enough information to judge its technological viability. All right. So if people are looking and reading white papers and talking to people and making decisions on which technology is better, I don't say I discount their opinion, but I have a hard time kind of placing a bet because of it. All right. So then what people tend to do is they tend to look at these reports and metrics, right? Transactional throughput and all this type of stuff. Well, okay, I totally get that, right? I want a technology that has more throughput and faster response time than the other. But what we also know is like I compare it to the 4 minute mile, right? Nobody in the history of time could run a mile in 4 minutes. One dude did it, and then tons of people started doing it. There's a psychological barrier that gets broken for all of humanity when one person breaks it. There's plenty of evidence that that's how it plays out. But technologically, it's not that much different. We've seen this through time with the internet, right? And the internet is where I've lived since the mid 90s. And someone came out with this modem that instead of being 14.4 kilobytes a second could go 28.8 kilobytes a second, right? Today's internet would look at that and be like, you dumbasses, what were you even doing on the internet? It took you 18 minutes to download a picture of Michael Jordan, you dumbasses. But that's what it was.
So
and it's
true. And it was not, it was like 360p.
Yeah, you don't even get his shoes because you're like, I see the picture. I don't even need to see the shoes anymore. Okay. It was so bad. But then, like, once someone did it, everybody's like, oh, how did they do that? They did it, and then they can catch up. So when I look at these metrics, I assume that now that they've done it, right? We look at metaverses. This metaverse has technology that can get X thousand people into one scene at one time. That's groundbreaking. It is groundbreaking. It's fascinating. It does speak to the capability of that team. Absolutely. And I bet within a few months, you're going to see a bunch of others reach that same benchmark. Not to mention, when you do technological performance tests, you choose the ecosystem, you choose the environment you're doing that in. I can run that test in an optimal environment, or I can do it in the wild, right? And when I do it in the wild, I'm not really doing it in the wild. Look, I've overseen large scale enterprise technological launches, and I've seen several dozen of them, maybe 100 or so. And I can tell you, you can do all of the tests you want to prepare for launching your site to millions of users, and your testing is going to be inadequate because you cannot predict the behavior of all of these randoms, millions of people using your site, and how all of them do it different, how that makes your system interact with itself in a myriad of ways. You cannot test adequately for that. So I don't really care if someone has a test environment and then they say, this is what our technologies can do, how fast it is, and how many people it can handle, unless I see it in the wild or a test that I can scrutinize all of the test parameters. So long-winded way of me saying, I really don't know how to evaluate which chain is better technologically. All right. Now, here's where we can go. We can look at ecosystem building, right? And we can look at stakeholder adoption. And I think there's three places to look.